How's it going? Welcome, guys. This is hi, Marilyn. Welcome back, all my friends and audience that are watching to the Moon podcast. And today we have a very special guest. Marilyn Savage is an Astro Flipper, one of my favorite Astro Flippers because she has done an amazing job. She's done an amazing job with what she's learned, how she's applied it, and now she is giving back to so many people and being a helping hand and guiding them in their journey. So I'm not going to get into too much of it because I believe that Marilyn has a better idea of how awesome she is than I do.
Thank
Marilyn,
you so much. Thank you.
welcome,
Thank you for having
welcome.
me. This is the first time on camera, so I'm like, oh my gosh, how is this going to work out? I'm sure many people have the same fears that I do. It looks like you're natural at this, Jamil.
I have had to become a natural at this, but it didn't start that way. When I first turned the camera on myself on my phone, the first thing that my kid said to me was, stop doing that, Dad. You look ridiculous. Our friends are going to make fun of us and you're too old. You're too old to be on the internet. Stop it.
Yeah,
But
right.
they were wrong. They were wrong. They were so wrong. I'm not too old to be on the internet. They're too young to understand just how internet I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good,
How's that?
good.
How's that? The internet doesn't exist without old brains creating it. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep. You're right. You're right. So I hope I'm able to answer all the questions, and I'm one of your happy students that is happy to work with others. I've learned lots of lessons along the way, and I know that you want to talk about a little thing like advice and background
Yeah.
and things like
But
that. So I'm
but
happy to do that.
before any of that, let's start with a little bit about you because I've gotten the pleasure of getting to know you personally in our friendship and time together in the program. But the others that are watching this don't know how special and awesome you are. So Marilyn, start us off with just some personal background, how you got involved in this ridiculous niche of wholesale real estate, and what it's kind of been looking like for you.
Sure. So my background, as people can see, I'm probably a little older than a lot of your students, but I spent many years at IBM. If people don't know that now, it's a large B2B kind of IT technology company. And my strength was in business consulting and sales.
Cool.
So I was always in the executive office, and I always prided myself on not talking technology. I'd bring somebody in who had to talk technology. So I really always tried to talk business objectives, what were the problems, and how together as a team, the client and I could sell things together. So I was very lucky over those years to learn and practice a lot of skills like in negotiation, skills like in listening, skills like in how to pivot. You're in the middle of something and you got to learn to pivot right away, and how to talk to people. That's probably a big part of it. And then I left IBM, and about 7 years ago, I'd always been pretty handy with my hands. I'm one of five kids. I'm the middle one. I'm the one that my mother said to my father, okay, take her to the hardware store, take her to the boat. I can fix anything with duct tape. So
Awesome.
I always thought I'd like to get into building, which I've been doing pretty much for the last 7 years. I joined a different program that really focuses on rehab then. And that's really what I've been focusing on all the way up until January of last year. And that's really kind of where I decided. I sold my last high end townhouse that I had built. And I said, I'm going to try to add another path in my business. And I was looking at wholesaling, but I wanted to learn it right. And one of the things I learned in IBM, and I give you a lot of credit for, Jamil, also, is you pay for performance.
Right.
So you really have to pay to learn these things correctly. And hopefully you learn from somebody as honest as Astro Flipping and as giving as you are, because I give you the highest praise on that.
Thank you.
And so once I I started started down the wholesale path, I realized so many of my skills that I had spent so many years learning and practicing. And I'm telling you, skills are practice. Everybody isn't
Mhm.
unnatural at things. I could transfer into wholesaling. All right. So you asked me how I found you, and I got to be honest, it was I was looking on the internet. It was an ad that came up on Astro Flipping, and I talked to a very nice gentleman who was very young. And I mean, I had had so many years of experience that I wanted to make sure that any organization I was joining was up to my standards.
Right.
So he smartly connected me to you. I don't know if you remember our
I do.
conversation.
I do.
And by the end of the phone call, I had joined. So you're a good salesman. But you answered my questions, and I think that's important for people to recognize that you can't just analyze completely to the end. You have to figure out what's important to you, and if people pass those quote unquote tests, you go with it.
Right.
Um, and that's what and that's really what I did. So
Amazing. Amazing. So did you retire out of IBM just
yeah, I was able to retire from IBM at the time, and it was sort of very different because my last job I was supporting people who were in Australia and who were in Europe. So my days started at 6 in the morning and ended at 11 at night.
Oh, wow.
And it was mostly out of my house because at that point IBM didn't want you traveling if you weren't being paid for directly. I did a lot of what I call deep staff, a lot of analysis, a lot of understanding strategy, things like that. My early part of the career and the major part of my career was really business consulting. I at one point was a partner in multimedia consulting here out of Boston,
Wow.
and that was terrific. I loved it, and it was great. But it was time to try something new. And my mom at the time was giving me a hard time. She always used to call me her fix-it man, and she said, "You know, why don't you try doing something that you think you like to do?" So I was addicted, like everybody else, to all those, HGTV shows and this and that, and thought it was easy. And over the last 7 years, I kept saying to myself, God, why didn't I know that lesson 7 years ago when I started? Every time I did one, there were more lessons to learn. And
Right.
that's true in wholesaling. Not that you don't
Or-
get better, but you can keep learning.
Mhm.
You can really keep learning. So,
So great segue for us there, Marilyn. So wholesaling, right? You went in, you became a builder. You were building townhomes, luxury product. You did that for some time. Fantastic. Like you are such an inspiring lady because you leave a career in technology. You know, I grew up with IBM, so I know who IBM is. Some of our audience, actually, a lot of our audience will be like, have no idea what that means, but.
exactly.
I remember IBM because I used to work on an IBM compatible. That's what we used to call them back in the day. And so knowing where you've come from, you move into a completely different industry after in retirement. You do well at building, but then you're still so your thirst for knowledge is just, it's boundless because you decide I'm going to try something. And wholesale real estate, Marilyn, is like this crazy little corner,
Right.
this crevice in real estate investing. It's such a small little hole of strategy and technique on how to get involved in real estate with no credit, no money, just some opportunity and understanding value and learning how to negotiate the instruments we use to transfer control. Essentially, that's what wholesale is, right? So you join this crazy niche in real estate, wholesale real estate, after I pass your sniff test. So let's.
That's a good way to put it. That's right. Yep.
And it's good. It's I'm happy I passed your sniff test because I would imagine that was one of the more rigorous ones I've been through. So I met you where you needed to be met at in terms of real estate knowledge. Right. You felt there would be something that you'd gain from me, so you paid the money and you joined. Let's talk about it. How has Astro Flipping been for you? What are the successes? What are the headaches? What are the things that you've experienced? I don't want you to hold back at all.
Well, it's been great. I got to be honest that I joined, I'm trying to remember when I finally sold my last high-end townhouse last January. My focus was on that. I might have joined a little before that, I'm not sure. But then when COVID hit, I volunteered for almost 4 months to be kind of a project manager volunteer on a major 3D N95 printing project. So
Oh, cool. Okay.
that took my days, and I might have tried to do something at night, but it was 10 or 11 o'clock at night by the time I did that. So I really didn't get into the Astro Flipping model. It was probably late June or July by the time I could pivot back. So I spent time learning, going through the course, and I think it's worked out very, very well. I got my first property probably in August.
Couple
Yeah,
months in. Yeah.
yeah. It takes a while
Yep.
to work on it. One of the things, I think I mentioned I'm in Boston, and we're in a marketplace where a cheap house is $500,000.
Right.
And so we're in a kind of a different kind of marketplace. I would love to be able to work more with wholesalers who want my expertise in terms of pricing or evaluation or docs or things like that. I would love that, and I'm hoping to build more of that part of the business. But most of my business so far has been selling, getting a property under contract directly from the seller.
Awesome. So let's talk about that. What have you been doing, and then how have you been exiting on those deals?
Let me go to the happy part. Exit is great. I've never been able to not sell a property.
So you've sold every deal you've contracted.
I sold every one. And I feel an obligation when I buy a property or put a property under contract from a seller. I'm looking them in the eye. I want to be able to know that I can take it down myself if I can't find a buyer and do fine. And my background in building gives me kind of a different perspective on being a wholesaler. I know what it takes to fix something. I can look at pictures, and I don't have to say small, medium, and large. I can say there's a 780 square foot house and it needs a new roof, and that's going to cost me $5,500. I mean, yeah. I know those numbers, so I can help my buyers through those things. I did have a situation that I learned on, and this I'll pass on to people. I had a property I put on in Revere, Massachusetts, great area. And I put it on like 2 o'clock in the morning when I was getting to putting up pictures, and always put up pictures. Don't try to sell it without pictures. I put up pictures, and by noon the next day, it was sold. People hadn't even seen it. They just looked at the pictures, knew the area and stuff. And then it was going to be about 3 or 4 weeks before the seller could leave. So I had what I thought was a good buyer. I wasn't able to get it under, a small amount of escrow. The buyer had his own attorney, and they wanted 5% down, which is normally a retail thing.
Yep.
We got that down, but the buyer went through a company that shops for mortgages. And right at the end, a week before we were supposed to close and we'd already delayed, he had to drop out. He was willing to lose close to $25,000.
Wow.
I didn't want that to happen. I just did not want that to happen. I could have taken it down myself, but I had a second buyer who had called me on it and said, "Al, it's my box. It's the area I want." I called him. I called a very specialized hard money dealer. I kind of try to think of myself as a wholesale concierge.
Yeah, that's what we do. We have to solve problems. So we need every tool, every resource, every business that can help us solve the problem at our disposal.
And I strongly suggest that. And I vet any buyers before I give them to the hard money. But I was in that hard money guy's face 3 times a day over the next 4 days. And we closed it. I sold it, financed it, and closed it in 5 days. And one of those days was a holiday.
Amazing. So did the original buyer get his EMD back?
I just gave it back to him. I didn't have to, but
but you did the right thing. That's how it's done. That's good business. That's good juju. as I like to call it. It's good karma. You've got to be able to sleep at night in what we do. And you knew that it wouldn't be fair, especially since you had another backup buyer and there was no harm to anybody if you let that guy out and give him back his money. And also they might turn into another buyer for you in the future. You never know, right? So you don't just do good so that it comes back to you. You do good because it's the right thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the right thing. And the seller, by that time we had to delay like a week and a half, and the seller was about to walk out of it. I said, look, I will buy it myself. I knew I could get hard money quickly enough. I will buy it myself. That was not the plan. But it worked out fine. So there are lots of things that you have to pivot on every time. And I would say, if anybody thinks this is an easy business, it's not. It's a practice business. It's one of networking. It's one of connections. It's one of doing right by people. And it looks like it's easier than it is. You and I talked a bit about this. When we look at all those HGTV shows, nobody talks about acquiring the property. And I spend a lot of time with new wholesalers, and I love it. I have to get smarter about it because I had a situation where I spent a lot of time educating, and then I thought we were doing it together, and he said, no, you're not getting any of that money. I'm going, oops. So I got out of it. I just got out of it and said, okay, but next time I'll be smarter and just say to people, look, time is money to me too. I mean, I love to help you, but do we have something we're doing together? And I share a lot. I share how to evaluate, what documents to use, how to talk to people, what should they say in their emails. I mean, on the buyer's side, I had a great property that I didn't have one buyer for, but I had two guys that were new in the business, and I knew that they would be perfect together. One was a mechanical engineer and one is a custom builder. And I brought them together to buy this property. So
amazing.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with them going over budgets and things. So I probably do things slower than a lot of people because I spend so much time with people on both sides.
But it's great. I mean, you're doing it on a relationship basis, right? And we're in this world today where everything happens so fast and relationships are scrolled past, right? I can't tell you how many of my friends I scroll past every single morning when I'm in my Instagram. And I don't do that rudely. I just do that out of habit and out of the way the world is today. And you're not the scroll by kind of person. You're the, hey, how are you? How's your life? Tell me about what's going on with you today. And we're missing that. We're missing a lot of that in our lives today. And I think it's, one of the reasons why I've taken to you so much, because we still communicate on a personal level, right? You'll just check in with me to see how's my day going. And I love that, right? It's you're my friend. And so, and that's from a mentor-mentee situation as well, right? Like I consider you my one of my very good friends and vice versa. So you have a knack at being able to do that, Marilyn. And I would anybody who's watching this, if you're new in the business, you're an Astro Flipper, not an Astro Flipper, doesn't matter. If you are looking at wholesale real estate as a potential business model, and you're wondering, does Astro Flipping work? Would Marilyn help me? Reach out to her. But do what she said, right? She wants to do deals, right? She wants to do deals with you. She's happy to help, but bring her an opportunity. So if you have a property or you have an opportunity, you'd love Marilyn's advice on understanding the numbers, maybe understanding strategy on what to do with it, possibly even maybe a rehab partner because she's got experience in it. She can connect the dots. She could bring money partners. She could bring buyers. There's so many solutions and situations that she can help you solve. It would be worth your while to reach out to her. Now, I don't imagine you've got a pop-in Instagram, do you, Marilyn?
I don't. I have, I use Facebook and I use
you're on TikTok? Are there TikToks out there of you dancing and
No, I have 25-year-old twins, and I told them right from the beginning, both my husband and I in technology said, everything lives forever on the internet. So don't put anything on there that you're not going to want to see when you're 50 years old. So.
Well, I'd say that if I ever get to see you in person, the first thing I want to do with you is make a TikTok.
I might do that.
Let's have fun and make a TikTok.
Okay, I might do that.
Yeah.
So, you had asked me when we talked about that, about advice to people. And if you don't mind, I made a few notes because I was really thinking hard about this over the last 24 hours or so. What would I have liked to have known before I started? So
Yeah.
if you'd like to
Please.
hear any of those, I'm happy to pass that on.
Let's go down the list.
Okay, so it I really believe, Jamil, in your attitude of abundance. It's a wonderful attitude. People squatting up, helping each other, both benefiting. And it's nice that you talk about that as one of your very first ways to do business. And I really would love that this whole business were a little less cutthroat and a little more like that, because it makes life better when both sides can help. So I just tell you to people, don't be a taker all the time. Don't be a taker. Don't be a taker. Don't be a taker. Do quid pro quo, back and forth. What makes sense? Everybody's going to benefit, because if you do one deal by yourself instead of squatting up, you might not get the next 5 deals together. So I really adhere to your view of abundance in sharing things.
Love it.
The things you teach. The second thing is the things you teach. That knowledge, I believe, works anywhere. I'm in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. I'm across the state. I can't see things. I'll tell you the truth. I have not gone to see a property. I didn't believe it that you could get a property and not have to go see it. But I have not, in the last 5 or 6 things, gone to see it. But if I see pictures, I know exactly what it has to do.
Exactly.
So, this knowledge I have, and I haven't expanded beyond those 2 territories yet, but I fully expect to this year. So anybody who wants to do some things across the country, I'm happy to work with them, and I'll apply the same lessons that I learned here. So I'm giving a boost to say, learn the things, learn them, because they work everywhere. I'm pretty sure. Now, my side of the business is a little slower in getting wholesalers to come to me, and I'm hopefully going to figure out a better way to do that. But it may be just they have a different attitude in this area than others. But I'm hoping, I'm ever hopeful and optimistic that I'll get more of that.
Well, wholesalers that are watching this, if you're in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, anywhere there in the Northeast, Northeast, right?
Yeah.
In the Northeast, please reach out to Marilyn. She is a wealth of knowledge. She understands extensively how to do business down there. She understands where the money is, where the buyers are. She has the buyers. She is a buyer. She's all of the above and more. Also, just like one of the most gracious people out there and helpful. So bring her your deals. Everybody that's watching this, there'll be thousands in the. This is one of those things, Marilyn, that will live forever.
Okay. Yep.
So we talked about the things on the internet living forever. This will be one of those things. So forever and ever and ever.
Good.
And if it's year 3050, reach out to Marilyn. Her hologram is still flipping houses and wants to do deals with you.
Yeah, maybe. So there are 2 or 3 other things I just want to make sure people do. Yeah. Realize that you have to practice. The more you practice, and don't beat yourself up. If you didn't get a property because you figured out what it was, and just move on. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not always that positive. I was down on something yesterday, but you have to kind of just say, oh, well, in the big scheme of things, that's not a big deal. Just move on. So practice, but get help when you need it. And that could be, getting a lot of education on YouTube. It could be joining Astro Flippers, because there's a ton of education and things like that. Just get the help. It could be reaching out to people, like me. There's a lot of ways. So get help as you need it, and just be gracious about it when you get help that you give back, Yeah. So let me see. Was there anything else I wanted to make sure? I did learn an important lesson, and it's kind of seems obvious, but in real estate, and certainly in flipping, it says, you make your money on the purchase of the property. Mm-hmm. It's imperative in wholesaling that you do that correctly, that you understand how to comp and understand how to get a property under contract and understand what the right documents are so people don't skedaddle out of them.
Correct.
And you that's probably the hardest thing for people to learn and practice, but it does come. I'm
Right.
not fast as you are, but I'm pretty good now.
You're really
And
good.
for
You're really
free.
good.
You can do it for free. You can do it on
Yep.
Zillow. I mean, you
Yep.
don't have to pay for all these other things. So
Correct. Correct. I mean, that's I've been teaching on Zillow since you started with me, right?
correct,
And
correct.
I just moved on to the batch platform, but even then, there's so much information I've created using the free Zillow comping tool that you can become an expert just watching those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
So I think a lot of people want to hear about the money, Marilyn. Let's talk about the money,
the
right?
money, the
The
money's good.
money. So
The
how you
money,
been doing in wholesale?
yeah,
What's the money been looking like?
the money's good. Now, remember, I got my first property in August, and it continued to develop. So the end of the year the money's good. Money's fine.
Can
My
you talk a little
goal,
bit about it? Would you share some? I mean, what about your biggest deal? What's your biggest deal?
let's see. We had a wholesale fee of about how much was it? $75,000.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah. Now that's
hey.
unusual. That's highly unusual, and that was what
It's
I
highly
tried.
unusual, but I want to see if anyone else has a grandma who does that.
Well, let's see. Everybody looks at this thing and says, just be reasonable. And I'll tell you what, that's what I try to do. I try to say, make up in volume for it. Don't go nuts. And when I get something from a wholesaler and he automatically puts on a $50,000 thing, I'm going, what? I mean, I have to really believe in those numbers. And in the one that I got, I didn't. I'll go back. I can't accept a property from a wholesaler that has not properly priced it. I just can't.
Right.
I won't put it out to my buyers. I'm hoping I've established a reputation with my buyer that, like you, I don't bid up. I get
Yeah.
the property, I put my small uplift, and then I get it out to the buyers because I am one of them. I know what it's going to take. I know what the numbers are they're looking for.
Right.
Um, so I try very hard to make it a good deal for everybody, and
Awesome.
then that's what I do. And that 70, I have to be honest, that $75,000 one, I shared it with two other guys because they were a partner and had gotten it under agreement, and we all did very well. So
Beautiful. Beautiful.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and how many deals do you typically do in a month?
I probably, I was out in January, so I was probably running about four a month, and I was out for the month of January, and then had started back up in February, and I'll probably, maybe three this month, and then I'll get more. I'd love to be able to do more, and I'm capable of doing more, but in my model right now, going direct to sellers, as you said, I really know my sellers.
Mhm.
They'll end up telling me what is it the number they really need and why do they need it. And so I attempt to meet that number as best I can and
Great.
have been able to do it. Even if my uplift is maybe 12K on top of it, that's all. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. And they're happy in the end. I've taken care of them. I've left plenty of meat on the bones on the other side. So I'm ready to do more with more people, and it'll take less time because hopefully people are talking to sellers kind of the way I do, getting to know them, knowing what the right price is, and that part of the deal they get compensated for. And then if they bring it some to me, I get compensated for finding the right buyer or buyers, like the deal where I had to put two together and getting it sold and getting it through the hard money, the right hard money people, and getting it through the legal aspects and et cetera, et cetera. When a property is closing, I am in the middle of all those things. Many people aren't, but I've gotten to know my buyers quite well, and I make sure everybody's happy at the end. So if a lawyer is waiting for something from one of my hard money guys and he hasn't sent it, he'll hear from me.
Yeah.
I learned to do that. You have to speak up and really get this thing over the finish line. So
Amazing.
it's it,
Amazing.
it's been a very, very interesting year. Not quite a year yet that I've actually done this, and it's making money. And I just want people to realize that it's not what you see on TV. You got to learn. You got to educate yourself. You may have to pay for education. People, I've talked about this. People really value what they've had to pay for.
Correct.
And so my own mistake is I probably have given away a lot of stuff for free, and I need to make it more clear in my expectations to say, guys, I'm happy to talk to you and do all this, but let's have an expectation that we're both going to benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that makes all the sense in the world. So I'm constantly learning in this business, and it keeps me out of trouble. And so from that standpoint, it's nice. It's nice, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
I would just adore getting into trouble with you one day, Marilyn. If that's ever in the cards, let's go figure out what that looks like and make it happen.
Well, you were coming to the Northeast sometime.
I will be in the Northeast sometime. One of my favorite cities in the United States is Boston. I'm a big fan of your guys' sandwich coffee shop, Au Bon Pain.
Yes.
I love that place. I've tied one down one night at Cheers. It only looks like Cheers from the outside, not when you get inside. When you get inside, it's totally different. But I love that town. I love the architecture, the history. I went on a boat tour and survived all of the things that you do when you're in Boston. The only thing I missed was the hockey game. So I want to go and watch the Bruins get beat by the Flames.
No. You don't want that. No. We're a very friendly city. I grew up outside of New York, but after college came up here. And I'll tell you a funny story. I got lost going to my new apartment, and I was pulled over to the side, and I was in Cambridge, where Harvard is. And this man, I tell you no lie, in a green suit, a green bow tie, red hair. He must have been like a Harvard professor, newspaper under his arm. He knocks on the window and he says, "You look lost." And I said, "Yes, I'm trying to find this property. I was here a month ago, but I can't find it." He goes out in the middle of an intersection that had 5 different traffic directions in it, puts his hands up, stops all the traffic, and tells me to do a U-turn and tells me where to go.
I think you got met by a leprechaun. Honestly, green suit, green tie, red hair, stop traffic. Told you where you needed to be. I mean, I don't know, Marilyn. It sounds like a leprechaun to me.
I like the city. It's a lovely city, a friendly city.
Boston, come on.
Yes, it is. It is.
No, I know it is, but I still that was a leprechaun.
You're probably right. You're probably right. I know that story. People always say red hair, green suit. He had to be a Harvard professor, and he was down the road from Harvard. So. But I was very I wasn't going to find it. I had been driving around for half an hour, couldn't find the place. And that was before GPS and stuff like that. So
yeah. What did we do when there was no GPS, huh?
I know. We had to look at a map.
We had to ask leprechauns where to go. Marilyn, it's been amazing chatting with you. You're just a joy. You're a joyful person, joyful in everything you do. You're inspiring to watch, your time, hear your story about your time at IBM, to being a home builder, to now a wholesaler, a successful one, solving problems with heart, and literally you are the definition of no limits, right? You don't have any. You can do anything you put your mind at. You've shown that, and I'm inspired by you, and I think that thousands of others will be as well. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you. It's lovely to talk to you as usual, and I give a thumbs up to Astro Flipping in the way you take care of people. It's a wonderful experience.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay, have a good day.